Hey, what's up, everybody? DFS Rico coming at you with my picks and insight for this NFL Week 5 DraftKings 12 game slate. I'm pretty sure it's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's 10, my bad. All the games being postponed to later dates and all that stuff is really complicating everything. So just keep an eye out on that stuff. Obviously, you don't want to play guys that are highlighted in red just due to the fact that they won't be playing this week. Well, on the slate, you're not going to get any points for them on the slate, so make sure you don't have them in your lineup. But yeah, let's get to it. Before I get into it, though, if you could like, comment, subscribe, I really do appreciate it. Hit that bell icon so you can know every time I upload a new video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, just make sure you ask them in the comments, and I'll try my best to get back to you. But I will have timestamps as well, so if you just want to come through and scroll through a certain section of players, I will have that included down below, pinned in the first comment. So let's get to it. We have a pretty interesting slate this week. First thing I want to do is I do want to go over like the over-unders, the projected scores, the spreads. I mean, we got Baltimore, Cincy 51, got 44.5 right there, 53.5, 55.5, 46.5, 47, 54. That's pretty high. 51 and 54. So typically, the reason I like to look at that, especially in the DFS perspective, is just due to the fact that I want to target games that are projected to be high scoring, which is usually because, I mean, the quarterbacks are in a really good spot and the defenses are not looking too well. So in this case, this week, I already know for sure, as far as like the highest ownership coming into the slate, it is going to be that Giants and the Cowboys game, with good reason. I mean, both of their defenses are bad. Prescott's been lighting up the scoreboard. These guys, they're hard to stop. Sorry, they're hard to stop. They're playing very well. Their defense just can't stop anybody as well. So, which in turn makes it to where they have to constantly be putting pressure on the other team as well. But I'll just get into that while I'm in here. At the end of the video, I am going to have my favorite stacks to target, and then you can kind of build around there if that's the way you want to look at it. But for QBs, I mean, you got Jackson up top versus Cincy in a really good spot. Hasn't looked good the last couple weeks. I mean, it's crazy that 26 points isn't looking good for him, but he hasn't looked good, obviously, as he has last season, especially against Houston and Kansas City. Looked a little better last week, I guess you could say, but for 7,900, you can go there if you want to stack him up with certain guys on his team, but I will get into that later. I like Mahomes in a really good spot. I think their over-under was, 55.5? I think they're the highest on the slate. And they're actually not getting a lot of ownership just due to the fact that I think it's their price tags compared to like the guys in the Giants and the Cowboys game. So they will be more like a GPP play in my opinion. But I do like Patrick Mahomes a lot against the Raiders. You got Prescott, the number one guy on the slate, I think. I think he's in the best position to succeed at least. Doesn't always work out, obviously, we know that, but he's in the best spot. Unless the game just gets really blown out, then Prescott will not be the best play in my opinion. But who knows? We just got news on this Arizona and New York Jets game. I think somebody from the Jets tested positive for the Rona, so that game might be canceled. So just keep an eye out on that. Don't lock in your lineups tonight with some Cardinals or Jets and then be screwed over. But I do like him in that matchup as well. Sean Watson, another guy I really, really like at 6.9K. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate as far as quarterbacks and as far as stacks. Big fan of him. I want to see what the team brings now that they fired their coach. Might change the whole aspect of the team and the whole mentality. And hopefully they could start playing a little more aggressive. And I don't know. It's always change is good sometimes. So I like to see change. Then you got Pittsburgh versus Philly. Big Ben's been playing pretty solid. Not the best, but he's been playing pretty solid. Good enough to win. So I can't complain. Jared Goff versus Washington. We did see Lamar Jackson have himself a good game versus them, but I'd rather just go someone else. If I'm going to play around anyone around this range, it'll probably be between Matt Ryan, which I really do like in this game. Another game which had a really good high over-under. 6.1K. We know this guy's going to throw the ball at least close to 40 times a game. And if it's a shootout, then he's going to throw it even more. Hasn't looked good. I know he's not going to have Julio Jones, but that's only going to make his stack a little more affordable and let you pay up in other spots as well. So Matt Ryan, I like him a lot, and then followed by Teddy Bridgewater in that same game. I like him as well. He's been looking pretty solid. Good enough, you know. He looked good against Arizona last week. He looked better. Ran for a touchdown, 32 yards. I like him. Scrolling down, there's no one really out down here that intrigues me other than 5.4 Daniel Jones. Like we said, everyone's been playing very well versus his defense. Daniel Jones, this might be, if there's a game where Daniel Jones turns it around, you would think it would have to be this game, just due to the fact that the Cowboys have been terrible in defense. Terrible, like awful. They're the worst defense in football as of right now. So if there is an opportunity in a game where Daniel Jones can look like a stud, it'll be this game, you know. If he doesn't do it this game, I'd rather just never ever play him again. But I will not lie, I probably will have him in a couple lineups just due to the fact that it's such a good spot in that 5.4K. Very good spot. And then I like Derek Carr at 5.3 mainly because of the fact that he's been looking good in a couple games. He played good against Buffalo and New Orleans. Didn't look that good against an elite defense in New England. And then Carolina, he did struggle that first game. But that was that game where Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. I mean, can't get too many touchdowns if your running back's getting 3 of them. So that was no issue with that. But just to the fact that that point is 55 points per game, 55.5 points over unders, it intrigues me. So like if you assume the Raiders are playing from behind, it wouldn't be a bad idea to play a guy like Carr. But that's really it for quarterbacks. I mean, like I said, I like, just a quick rundown, I like Prescott, I like Watson, I like Ryan, Bridgewater, Jones, and Carr. Those are the ones I really like early on. As of right now, those are the guys I like. And then Christian McCaffrey, obviously, is not back. Zeke Elliott, he's probably my favorite running back on the slate because I do expect Dallas to get ahead and just start feeding this guy. And the thing about Zeke is, like, he's not game script dependent. He's going to get the ball no matter what. No matter what he's doing, if they're behind, they're throwing the ball to him. 8 targets last game, 11 before that. If they're ahead, 22 carries. Like, he's going to get it no matter what. He's going to get the ball no matter what. And at 7.8K, I've always thought he should be priced like a 9K running back just because of the amount of volume he gets. I know his numbers aren't the best. I get it. But for the volume that he's getting, he can easily outbeat that score. Like, he can beat that score very easily. So I am very interested in Zeke, and I'm pretty sure I won't be the only guy, obviously. I like James Conner at 6.9 if you want to be a little different compared to some of the field, because some of the field will be playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and so Conner will be like the pivot off of him, I would think, against the Philly defense that hasn't been that great, in my opinion. They've played some some trash teams, Philly, so it's made them look a little better than they actually are. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, same thing. It's a game script kind of thing. If you expect the Chiefs to get ahead, you would expect Clyde Edwards to probably hit 20 carries and just start handling the bulk of the workload, you know. I like him a lot, though, and I guarantee you a lot of ownership will be going to Zeke and Clyde. Those are probably going to be the two of the highest owned running backs, so I don't have an issue with either of them. James Robinson hasn't looked too bad. Houston defense is not the best. It's not the worst either, but I'd rather just play for Hilaire or even a guy like Conner. Rather just stay away from Miles Sanders against a very good defense in Pittsburgh. Chubb, remember, he's injured. Kareem Hunt is questionable, it looks like. He was limited. I think he plays. He played last week through the groin injury. I would assume he plays. Don't really want to pick on that Indianapolis defense. Looks very good. And this is the other guy I want to talk about, 6.4K. Mike Davis, ever since McCaffrey went out, he's just been killing it. Even that first game where he went out, he had 8 targets, 8 receptions, 15 points, and he didn't even play that whole game. Follows it up with a 23 fantasy point game, 22 at 6.4K. He'll probably be the highest owned guy just due to the matchup. He's going against Atlanta. He is that guy in the backfield. You don't got to worry about anyone else taking carries or touches from him. I mean, 6 targets. He had 21 touches that game. The game before that, he had 21 touches as well. He's going to get the bulk of the workload in the backfield. And if this game turns into a shootout, Mike Davis, I guarantee you, will be one of the reasons that keeps this game close. So Mike Davis is 6.4K. If I was to pick the highest owned backs, it'd be Mike Davis, Clyde, and Mike Davis, Elliott, then Clyde. I think those are the 3 ways I would look at it. But in some combination of that, those guys will be the ones you would want if you're just playing like one lineup. I would want to play some of those guys. Looks like Mixon being listed as limited, but I think he plays. I don't see what he did have that massive game last week. I don't think he does it again against a Baltimore defense that's elite. Then you got Josh Jacobs at 6.3. I They've included him a little more in the pass game, so I have no issues playing him, but he hasn't been the best. Jonathan Taylor at 6.2. He bounced his carries up again last week because he had 13 the week before, and then he got it back up to 17. I like him. I'm a big fan of him. 6.2. I'd rather just pay up for Mike Davis, I believe. Mostert looks like he's going to be out again. So that brings a guy like Jerick McKinnon up to the top again. Has looked good. Miami defense is not that good. McKinnon has been killing it in the amount of playing time he has been getting. Let me double check, but it looked like Mostert wasn't going to play. Practice in the limited, so just keep an eye on that. If you want to play either one, I would just play the guy who's starting if you really wanted to target that game. Kenyon Drake, I did mention that Arizona game, so just keep an eye out on that. He's in a fantastic spot though. Like if nothing happens, 5.7. His price just keeps going down, but he's just not doing anything. He's getting the carries, he's getting the snap share, he's just not doing anything with it. You would think eventually he snaps out of it, but who knows? It's also the way they're play calling. It hasn't been looking that good. Scrolling down, Mark Ingram, Henderson, David Johnson at 5.2. I don't have an issue with him. He's been playing very solid. 19 touches last game. He's averaging about 15 plus touches a game. So I like him at 5.2. I don't see an issue playing him. I could easily see him having a 20, 25 point game. Just get him a touchdowner. Just get him a touchdown, and I'm pretty sure he gets up there. Le'Veon Bell is coming back, but like I said, keep an eye out on the coronavirus. I think they said they were retesting somebody from the Jets, and then they'll see how it goes. Gibson versus the Rams. He looked good last week. He had 82 reception yards. He kind of put the team on his back. I mean, they lost, but he was like trying his best to keep the game interesting, I guess. Gaskin at 4.8. He came back to earth last game. I'm not a huge fan of him in that matchup versus San Francisco. But Chase Edmonds, Duke Johnson, Devontae Freeman, none of these guys really intrigue me. I think that's really it. Like I said, favorite running backs, Elliott, Hilaire, Davis, if you're looking for something like a GPP, Connor, Kareem Hunt, because, I mean, he's going to get the volume, right? And then Taylor and whoever plays, it'd be Taylor, actually, just Taylor. Those are probably my two favorite. If I don't want to play any of those three high-owned guys. But I recommend probably playing them. Then let's go back to receivers. We got Hopkins up top. Keep an eye out on that. You got Ridley. Looks like he's still questionable. Let's see if he practice. He was limited at practice. I think he plays. Pairing him up with a guy like Ryan, obviously, is good. Amari Cooper at 7.4. Probably going to be the highest owned receiver on the slate. Just because, like I said, he's going against the Giants. Tyreek Hill, stud. In a really good matchup. Just how close does the game stay? I mean, if the game stays close, I would think he gets more opportunity. If the game blows out, I would think, like I said, it's all about game script, however you think it's going to turn out. Julio Jones said he said he's going to. I don't think he plays. I don't think Julio Jones plays, so it's going to make the Atlanta Falcons stack more affordable. You got Juju Smith-Schuster at 6.7K. Will Fuller at 6.6. I like him. Like I said, Cooper's probably the best play as of right now. I don't mind Schuster versus Philly. Philly hasn't been the best defense versus receivers, but we'll see. Then you got Will Fuller at 6.6. Looked very good last week. I'm a big fan of him this week. Cooper Kupp versus Washington. DJ Chark, I like him as well in this matchup. 6.5K. He had those 2 touchdowns last week, 9 targets. Gardner Minshew really likes him. So I think he keeps going back to him if they fall behind. Robert Woods. OBJ had that massive game. I don't expect that to happen again this week. I actually like Marquise Brown at 6.3 for a GPP play. He's been getting consistent amount of targets every week, about 6+ targets a game. He has the most air yards on the season. So if you don't know what air yards are, obviously per pass attempt, in total for every pass attempt that's been thrown his way, the ball has been thrown the longest amount of distance practically. So out of anyone in the season. So you would think eventually he's going to catch one of these bombs that goes for 50 yards, get that touchdown. That's what, 11 points alone right there. 12 points alone on one play right there. And I mean, if he gets you a couple more, he's going to really break the slate, honestly. Just that's the kind of guy he is. Depending how interesting Cincinnati makes the game will depend how much more opportunity he gets. Tyler Boyd, he will probably be guarded by Humphreys this week, so I don't know if I really want to play him, but he is going to get the targets if he's not. So look at it both ways. quarterback change in Washington for the football team. You saw his targets last week, 14. He's not going to not get targets, but they did do a quarterback change. Remember that? So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I would think they're behind that game, so I would think McLaurin gets his opportunity again. DJ Moore hasn't looked good the last couple weeks. It's been a lot of Robbie Anderson, and I think I will go to Robbie Anderson again, but he is in a fantastic spot as well. CeeDee Lamb, not a bad play. Looked very good last week again. 2 touchdowns, 79 yards, 7 receptions. Everyone in that game is interesting. There's Robbie Anderson, like I just talked about him. I like him as well, 5.9K. Crowder at 5.8 versus Arizona would be good if he plays. Deontay Johnson is back from that concussion that he had. He'll be back. So we saw his first 2 games. He had 23 targets in 2 games. Then he got hurt. I think he goes back to another 10 target game this week, depending how close the game stays. Deebo Samuel looks like he's questionable. They didn't practice due to an illness, so keep an eye on that. Might open up the door for Brandon Ayuk. I like the way they use Ayuk, but I just don't like if Garoppolo plays, I like him better. Let's just say that. Landry threw that touchdown last week. Don't expect that to happen this week. T. Higgins has looked very good. If in this game, a lot of the attention goes to a guy like Tyler Boyd, I would assume T. Higgins would get most of the target share. So I like him. 4.9K. I don't think he's a bad cheap play. I like Higgins. I like Renfro because I do assume that the Raiders will be chasing from behind. So a lot of check down plays for Renfro. A lot of opportunity to beat this price tag. He could get it without even touchdowns. That's the thing that I like about Renfro. Without getting any touchdowns, he could still get it. Okay. Keep going down. AJ Green, Slate. Here's the guys I really want to talk about. Slayton at 4.8K. I did mention that Giants and that Cowboys game. That's going to be interesting. At 4.8K, Darius Slayton will be one of the highest owned receivers. Top 3 for sure this week. Especially in cash. I see no reason to not play him. He's averaging like 7-8 targets a game. I know he hasn't been doing much other than that first week. He's kind of like a boomer bust guy. He's going to get the targets. He's going to get the looks. The way Dallas has looked this week, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for another 30-point game. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for 5 points, though. So just keep that in mind. Good play, though. I like Slayton. Keep going down. Chenault has looked like a stud, honestly. He's questionable, but he's looked good. I mean, for a rookie, he's looked very good. Not what you would have expected from him, but he's showing up and balling out. Golden Tate, I passed by him. Same position as Slayton. Look at the matchup. He's going against Dallas. Tell me what you think, and then go from there. I think he's in a good spot, like I said. All right, we got. Who else do we got? I think that's it. I don't like Cooks. Cooks burned everybody last week. He was at 4.5K. I think last week did nothing. Terrible. 4.1, I guess I wouldn't mind taking a chance if I am playing that game. And then let's go over to tight ends. And then defense, I don't really talk about it. I mean, you can just kind of fill it in. Tight ends, you got Kittle up top, 6.6. You got Kelsey, 6.4. Kelsey's obviously been as good as always. I like Kittle, whether anyone plays at quarterback. Whoever plays at quarterback, I still like him. So just don't be afraid to play some Kittle if you can afford him. Andrews, it looks like he's questionable. I'm not sure what happened. I think he's been added to the limited participant. Oh, he was limited. I think he'll play. Darren Waller, we know how much Derek Carr loves him. So if you assume they're chasing from behind, Darren Waller would probably be the main guy I would target on this team for sure. He'd be the main target I want if I was gonna be playing that game script from the Las Vegas and Kansas City game. Then you got Zach Ertz, 5.7, Higbee, 5.6. Not a big fan of neither of those guys. Gesicki at 5K. Nah. Dalton Schultz, another guy you could play instead if you don't want to play those receivers. I don't have an issue playing him. But then there's Evan Ingram at 4.6. I like Hurst as well. If Julio Jones is out, I would assume he gets a little more targets, a little more looks his direction. I like him. Evan Ingram at 4.6 is probably the guy everyone's going to want to play. And especially in cash, just because of the fact that they're playing the Cowboys. It's really simple, guys. It's not that complicated if you really just pay attention. And just, honestly, just it's easy to get started, at least you could say. It's harder when you want to, when you want to win big, but to get started, it's easy. Just look for the games that have high scores. Keep going. Eric Ebron at 4K, I don't have an issue with him. Logan Thomas at 3.5. We'll see how that affects him. I've been playing him all season. I would think eventually these targets turn into catches and yards and touchdowns. So I'll still have a little bit of him this week. I think that's really it right here at the tight end. Not really too interested. Oh, I didn't even go over receivers, but receivers I like. I like Ridley. I like Cooper. I like Fuller. I like Chark. Boyd. McLaurin. T. Higgins. Renfro. Slayton. Obviously, I love Slayton. So I think that's it right there. Tight ends, obviously, Kelsey, Waller, Schultz, Hurst, Ingram, Ebron, and Thomas are probably all my favorite ones. I mean, there's a lot of them, but depending what price tag you are, just kind of pick and choose from what you need or how much salary you have. But yeah, last thing I want to do is just go over like 4 or 5 stacks that I really like that I'm looking at. First one, obviously, I want to talk about is Dak Prescott, 7.4K. Pairing him up with a guy like Cooper, and honestly, you can even pair him up with Schultz, and that'll be an easy way to start your stack. Personally, I like playing 3-1 stacks. I always do. That's my way to go right now. I like it. I think that's how you win the big money. If you're playing in big contests, that's the way you want to play for sure. If you're playing in cash, you obviously want to play smaller stacks and just play the best plays, best value, and all that kind of stuff. And then this is the thing, you want to run it back with somebody from the Giants. But I don't have an issue playing anyone from this game. Like, you don't have to play Cooper. You don't have to play Schultz. Like, let's say you wanted to play a stack. It would have to be anyone from, like, these guys. So if I wanted to play any variation of the Cowboys, I would put Prescott with 2 of these guys. Whichever 2 guys you think you want, value, price goes into consideration. But this is probably my favorite one. And then pairing it up with a guy like, where's he at? Darius Slayton at 4.8. This will be one of the most common stacks on the slate. So just know you're not going to be alone if you pick something like this. The way you can be different, obviously, is probably play some Gallup, probably play some Lamb instead of a guy like Cooper, probably play a little more Tate. Just depends which way you want to go. But like in this case, you could play like Slayton. You could take off Schultz. You can play Evan Ingram instead, and then put like Lamb in or something. You can play a lot of ways of this. And then same vice versa. Like, I mean, if you wanted to play the other side of the game, you could play Daniel Jones, a guy like Cooper, Slayton, and then a guy like Ingram. If you wanted to play this side, or you could play a guy like Golden Tate. Like, this is the combination. I'd play Jones up with any of these 2 of these guys, and then run it back with anyone from the Dallas game, which would be like Cooper, Zeke. This will be more a way of, I think, if I would play the Giants stack, I would play Zeke, because game script wise, I would think the Dallas is ahead and Daniel Jones has to bring the Giants back. So Elliott's just going to be running the ball, trying to run the clock out. And then the Giants are just going to be chucking the ball. Check downs, no matter what. They're just going to be trying to catch up. So that's just a game script way. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it for that game. Let's go over to the next game that I really like, which I like both sides of the game with Carolina and Atlanta. Let's start over with the Atlanta game first. You got Matt Ryan. Pairing him up with obviously guys. I mean, if Julio's out, let's say Julio's out, you got Ridley, you got Gage, and you got that one guy, Zacchaeus, for 3K. He looked very good last week. And Hurst. So I would pick Ryan, pick any 2 of these guys, pair them up however you want. Let's say in this case I want to do Hurst and Ridley. And the other team, I'm going to run it back with a guy like Robbie Anderson. You can even do Mike Davis just because Mike Davis is a pass-catching back. But in this case, you could do Robbie Anderson or, in my opinion, DJ Moore. That's it. Or Mike Davis. So I wouldn't say obviously play all these guys together, but you can go. I think I would go with something like this. But like I said, these are the high-scoring games that you would expect to see. That's how I would do it if I was to run it from that team. But if I go over to the other team, I go Teddy Bridgewater. Like I said, you can even play Mike Davis or any of the receivers, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Let's say I don't play Mike Davis because I know he's going to be higher owned than these 2 guys because I want to be a little different right there. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Run it back with a guy like Ridley or Hurst, whichever way you want to go, and you have yourself a nice little stack right there as well. Just a lot of different ways you can go. I like all 4 of those stacks. And then the last stack I really wanted to just go over was Deshaun Watson. I like Deshaun Watson a good amount. 6.9K. Will Fuller. And then running it back. So sometimes you don't have to always do that for the 3-1 stack, but if you don't force yourself to play a bad player, that's what I always try to think of. Just because you want to fulfill the stack, whatever. You can probably just play David Johnson, and you'd probably be fine, right? David Johnson. I don't know about Cobb or Cooks. I guess this is probably any of these guys combination I would go, but I would make sure I include Fuller. Fuller would for sure be in there, and the other 3 guys is just whichever one you prefer. But if you don't want to play it, just play Fuller and Watson, and then run it back with a guy like Chark. I like Chark, or if you want to be a little cheaper, you play Chanel at 4.5K, just depending what salary, if you want to pay up somewhere else. It all depends how you want to play it. I wouldn't really want to play the other side of this game, but I do like the Watson side. So if I wanted to play even just Watson, Fuller, and a guy like David Johnson, boom. That's a nice little 3-1 stack you can have yourself there. Leaves you with a decent amount of salary. I mean, once you put your defense in and a cheap tight end in, you'll probably be able to afford a little more everywhere else. But a lot of different ways you can go. That's what I really like about football. You never know who's going to pop off, but those 5 stacks are the ones I kind of am very interested in right now. Obviously, a lot of people are. I did mention, like the Kansas City stack or the Las Vegas Raiders stack. You can play that side as well. You can even play a San Francisco one. I would play one if Garoppolo's playing, but that's the only way I would play one. But I think that's it, guys. I will set the timestamps. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.